Hey there, guys. So we have got a pretty good little short story here for you today. This is from an old Tennessee country boy, and he says he's got a few other encounter stories that he's going to share with us in the future, but for the time being he has sent this one in, and I think he's done a pretty good job writing it up. It's pretty interesting, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. You might even want to hear from him again. So, let's just get right into it. Hello, my name is Hard Left, or at least that's my nickname. Funny story how I got that handle. I was driving the hay truck one day in the hayfield while my pa and uncles were bucking hay. That's what we called it when you picked up a bale of hay by hand and tossed it up to the stacker. That's what we called the guy stacking the hay on the truck. Anyway, so my pa yells at me to turn right, but I got confused between my left and right, so I sat there in the driver's seat and tried to remember which way to turn. Meanwhile, the truck was still moving and I was coming up on a fence, and my pa yelled again. This time he yelled, "Hard right, boy, hard right, and quick or you'll take out the hog fence." Well, I still hadn't figured out which way was right, but I didn't want to admit it since my girl cousin was riding there in the front seat with me, and I knew she was smart on account of the grades she got in school. She was 9 and I was a year older. So I started turning that big old steering wheel, and I reckon it was the wrong right, because my pa yelled a bunch of things that I'd get my mouth washed out with soap for saying. The one thing I got out of what he said was that he wanted me to stop the truck and quick, since I was almost against the hog fence by then. So I scooted all the way forward and pushed hard on the brakes. I was so upset about forgetting my left from my right that I forgot to push the clutch. The end result being that my paw came off the top of that stack of hay, bounced off the hood of that old farm truck, and rolled off into the hog pen with a splash and a whole bunch more words I wasn't allowed to say. I could just taste the soap, just hearing them. Well, anyway, I guess that was the long way around the barn to tell you folks how I got the handle Hard Left. The only good thing that came out of that was that I finally learned my left from my right, and I ain't forgot it to this day. So here it is about 18 years later, and I was driving truck cross country. One trip I ended up in Washington State up in the Olympic National Forest doing my reset. A reset is the 34-hour break that truckers have to take every 70 hours of work or every 8 days, whichever comes first. Now I gotta let you folks know there ain't much I'm scared of. I growed up roaming all over the Cumberland Mountains, hunting hogs and coons at night. I've heard all kinds of crazy noises out in the woods, so nothing scares me anymore. To be honest, about the only two things that do scare me is a steady job and the thought of running into a Bigfoot, which I don't believe in anyway, so that only leaves the one thing that I'm scared of. So as I was saying, I had ended up in the Olympic National Forest on a hike way up on the side of a mountain one day, and I had hiked all the way up this creek bed to the point where I couldn't go any further. So I decided to call it quits and head back down towards the truck. No sooner had I got turned around and headed back down the creek than a rock landed close to me. Now I'll admit I was some startled by that rock landing there the way it did, with me being all alone up there like that and in what people claim to be Bigfoot country, but I still didn't believe in Bigfoot. I'd taken a look all around at the cliffs on both sides, and I decided it must have fallen from one of them. So I started walking back down the creek bed again, and another rock landed near me, only this time I wasn't under any kind of overhang. So it got me a little bit squirreled up. I started looking for a big stick or something to use for a weapon, but couldn't find anything. It wasn't but a minute before another rock came sailing out over the top of the trees way above me and landed in the creek next to me. Now mind you, these weren't big rocks. They were just about half the size of my fist. But I still didn't want to get hit by one of them. Then I started hearing what sounded like a couple of rocks getting banged together up there in those trees, and right about then I was sure it wasn't no bear. I didn't know what it was, and I still wasn't a believer in Bigfoot, but there was no other humans around anywhere near that I knew of, and I decided it was high time to get out of there without any further investigation. If anybody asked, I wouldn't admit how scared I was at that moment because of those rocks coming arching up over the tops of those trees in a way that took something with hands to hold on to them and throw them. I decided I would rather remain an unbeliever in Bigfoot and get out of there before whatever it was decided to show itself. So that's my encounter story with something that some folks might call a Bigfoot. I'm not saying one way or the other. Signed, Hard Left. Wow, guys, that was quite a story. I don't know about y'all, but I hope to hear about more of Hard Left's possible Bigfoot encounters. That was right funny. Hope he keeps sending them in. If y'all like it, give him a thumbs up and subscribe. If he sees there's enough positive comments, he's liable to send me a few more. He says he's got some more, so we'll see. Anyway, y'all have a good one. I know that was a short one. Would love for you guys to send your encounter stories, and we'll do based on true encounters or fiction stories, however you'd like to write it up. Just send them to campfirecryptids@gmail.com. campfirecryptids@gmail.com, and we will get your stories put up. Y'all have a great one until next time. As I'm sitting here by the fire, I'm listening to the crickets and the cicadas. Maybe you can hear them as well. And I'm remembering back in my early childhood when my mom would either read or tell me stories. And that's probably where my love of a good story came from. And it's not whether the story is true or fiction, it's just about the quality of the story. It's about telling your story. It's about listening to a good story. So that's what this channel is dedicated to. And in particular, cryptids, Bigfoot, dogmen, things of that nature. If you have a story that you would like to tell, that you would like to hear told on this channel, send it to my email address. Send it to campfirecryptids@gmail.com. That's campfirecryptids@gmail.com. And I will do my best to get your story told. And if you want to stay anonymous, that's okay. Not a problem at all. Like I said, this channel is just simply dedicated to good stories. So send them in.